mild climate, a fertile Nile Valley of Egypt, and now you've got to walk through a desert. You've got to walk through seasons of extreme heat, seasons of extreme cold. And we're not talking about, hopping on an airplane or hopping on a bus. I mean, we're talking walking. I mean, you're walking desert, deserty steps, rocky steps. I mean, this is tough. I mean, you're going to be faced with elements, all around you. You're going to have to walk. You're going to have to run. You're going to have to fight some battles. And the truth is, what we find, the reason why he said close is because the reality was that the Israelites, they weren't prepared to be able to make that kind of journey. They weren't prepared to be able to take that kind of trip. There were some things they needed to go back and get, and one of those things were clothes. They needed clothes that would prepare them, clothes that would equip them, clothes that would enable them to be able to make this journey. See, number one, what you got to get is God will use your pain to provide preparation. God will use your pain, He'll use that hurt, He'll use that struggle to oftentimes provide preparation for the season to come. God will use what you went through to oftentimes prepare you for what you're about to go through. He'll use where you just were, what you just faced, the battle you just fought, to prepare you and equip you to fight the battle and to step into 2019. Because I know you probably don't want to hear this, but the truth is, 2019 is probably going to have a few surprises for you as well, right? I mean, I'd love to be able to tell you that, yeah, 2019 is going to be, all rainbows and sunshines and unicorns, but I think we all know better than that, right? 2019 is going to have some surprises, too. 2019 is going to have some moments where it doesn't go the way that we thought it was going to go, that the job doesn't work out maybe the way we thought it would work out, the relationship doesn't develop the way that we thought the relationship would develop. It's going to have some stuff, too, and again, looking at the Israelites, listen, God knew that if they were going to survive this journey, they were going to survive what was in front of them, they needed some clothes. They needed some clothes that could actually, provide the covering, provide the protection, and provide the support to be able to get to the promise. I was thinking about this, and I remember my wife and I, when we were first married, we bought this camper trailer, this little pop tent trailer, and it's really cool. You just kind of take a little gear and spin it up and pops up a little tent. And so we just got this, and we thought, let's take it out for a trip and adventure. And we probably should have done something short and close by, but instead we decided to take it all the way to Yellowstone. And so it's August, and so when we start on the road, it's hot here. I mean, it was warm, it was hot. And so we take it all the way to Yellowstone. We get to Yellowstone, and to our surprise, it's cold. Anyone been to Yellowstone in August? It's freezing cold. It's, and then, by the way, to make matters worse, we're talking freezing temperatures here. We're seeing snow flurries in the sky, and there was a fire ban, the whole time we were there, so we couldn't start a fire. And we thought, well, that's okay, because we've got this heater in our tent trailer, that if we just turn it on, it's going to work great, keep us warm. Well, the problem is we get the tent all set up, we pop the top, and we try to turn on the heater, and nothing happens. There's no heat, nothing. So here we are, no fire, no heater, it's, snow flurries coming down. We're freezing cold. It was like a scene from the Titanic, as here I am, I'm cuddled with Holly, I'm Rose, we just got to make it through the night, and so that's what we did. We just held on to each other, hoping to make it through the night, and then I think if I remember the story correctly, the moment we woke up, it was time to, take a hot shower. They had those showers over there. I made the sacrifice, told Holly, if you want to go, and she went and took the longest shower of her life. Actually, the real story is actually the reverse. Again, not one of my finer husband moments, but I share that with you because, again, it's an illustration of not being equipped for each season of your life. And for some of you, again, if you don't go back and get what you need to get, and learn what you need to learn from where you were and what you went through, you'll not be ready for what you're about to face. As often what prepares me for my wilderness is the pain of my Egypt. It's the pain of my Egypt that produces some clothing. It's learning to clothe yourselves with the preparation that comes from the pain of your past. A great example of this is David. David was great at this. Remember David when it comes this moment, this opportunity to take on Goliath, this giant, and he's in front of King Saul, and King Saul asks him, he's like, and what makes you think that you're prepared? What makes you think that you're ready to take on a giant, take on someone of Goliath's skills and size and enormity? And I love David's response in 1 Samuel 17, verses 34 through 35. He says, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it. I struck it and rescued the sheep from its mouth. I love that. I love that. David, how do you know you can make it through this? It's because I made it through that. And what God used to deliver me then is what God will use to deliver me now. I've been prepared for this. You got to use some of those trials, because, think about this. He's describing these moments, these encounters with a lion and a bear. Now, if your job is a shepherd, and all of a sudden a lion and a bear show up, how many know that's not a good day? That's not a great day. That's not a day you're looking forward to. But here's the thing. It's because this understanding, what David understood and what you've got to understand too, is that you're not prepared by the good days. You're not prepared by the good days. You're not prepared when everything is rainbows and sunshine and unicorns. No, preparation primarily doesn't happen in good days. It happens in your worst day.
Amen.
It happens in the day when the thing you prayed wouldn't happen happens. When God protect my sheep. God protect my children. God protect my business. And the very thing you prayed against happens. And listen, how you handle that prepares you. It prepares you. And so Saul, he sees just this untrained, unskilled little shepherd boy in David, and yet I love David's response. No. You're missing the point here. Let me tell you, I've had some bad days before, but I didn't leave empty-handed. I brought some preparation with me. I picked up some skills. I picked up some tools. I picked up some faith along the way. Or how about Paul? Paul's a great example of this as well. Someone who God would use hard times, difficult times to ultimately prepare for the next season in front of him. Think about Paul at the end of Acts. There's this place where he's kind of coming to the end of his ministry. He's gotten falsely accused, and he's been put in prison, and he's awaiting trial. And so they actually, to send him to trial, they're going to send him to Rome to face trial, to face these charges, these accusations. And so they put him on a boat. And so he takes this boat, and they start making their way to Rome when a storm hits and ends up taking out the boat. And so they're literally in this place where they're having to swim to shore for their lives. And God saves them, God protects them, He gets them to shore. And so right about that, and when you read the story, it's almost like at this moment you think, oh, things are starting to turn around. They're greeted by the Maltans, and the Maltans are actually they receive them really warmly. In fact, so much so they actually they build a fire for them, they give them food, and you're thinking, if you're Paul, you're like, finally, things are starting to turn around, right? Things are starting to go my way. And yet right at that moment, right, this what seems like the beginning of a new season, a new chapter in his life, a snake comes out, literally not just bites his hand, but actually locks onto his hand, right? And I kind of love the picture here. I love the symbolism here, because for some of us too, that's kind of what we think. We think going into the new year, like I knew it, right? Like I was hoping it was going to be better. I hope things are going to change, only to have this snake bite me, right? To be snake bitten, to end up with this situation, have this circumstance, and that's where Paul is. And I think for a lot of us, in the case of having a snake on our hand, a lot of us we would have given up right there, right? We would have given up right there. I've been through too much. I'm just going to give up. And yet Paul's response was just the opposite. Paul instead, he says, no, I've been through too much to give up. And the Bible says he shook it off. How is it that you shake, that a snake bites you, you're just going to to shake it off. It's when you've been through enough stuff. You just get to a place where it's going to take more than that. Where we're like, listen, enemy, it's going to take a whole lot more for you. You're going to have to do a lot more to stop me from getting to the promises that God has put before me and put in my life. And I've been through some stuff. I've been through some stuff in 2018. And so when the enemy shows up, see, here's what you got to get. If you don't get what you need to out of this year, there's going to be something that bites you in the new one. I'm just telling you.
Amen.
Just like Paul, there's going to be some things that bite you in the new one, and you won't be ready to shake it off. And that's why it's so important that much like the Israelites, much like Paul, much like David, you learn what it is to go back there and get the preparation that's found in these difficult seasons, these difficult circumstances. And that's what we see with the Israelites. We see them going back there. They're more than getting clothes. They're pulling preparation from painful circumstances. And again, speaking of things you might not want to hear, there's no better seamstress than suffering. There's no better seamstress than pain. There's no better seamstress than hardship. In fact, I'll prove it to you. In fact, we see this in these clothes in Deuteronomy chapter 29:5. Again, this is after they've walked for 40 years in the desert. And check this out, Deuteronomy 29:5, where it says, "During the 40 years that I led you through the wilderness, your clothes did not wear out, nor did the sandals on your feet." Talk about miraculous. I ordered something from Amazon, and it won't make it past a week. Right? And yeah, here's these clothes, right? Because again, it was preparation, it was clothes, it was lessons pulled, lessons learned, lessons grabbed hold of from difficult, from hardships, from tough times. And this is key for us because, listen, you can't walk into your promise until you learn how to wear your problems. Until you learn how to wear your problems, until you learn how to pull preparation out of the difficult times, out of the tough times. And listen, when I say this, I'm not talking about wearing it with bitterness, or wearing it with resentment, or wearing it with frustration. No, I'm talking about wearing it in a sense where there's a confidence that comes along with that. There's a swagger, there's a confidence that comes from when you look back and you think of the times and how God showed up for you and how God delivered you and how God saved you. There's a confidence in walking with this sense of understanding and knowing His faithfulness in your life. It's kind of that same kind of confidence, kind of like when maybe some of you got new clothes for Christmas, right? Like where you're like, man, I look good in this, right? It's kind of that kind of confidence. In fact, so much so, my hope for us, my heart for you is that you would pull the right wardrobe and you would wear your clothes in such a way that people around you are like, where did you get that from? Where did you get that from? Where did you get that joy from? Where did you get that faith from? Where did you get that kind of courage from? One of my favorite people to kind of hang out and talk with in this congregation is Rob right there. Because Rob, he's one of those guys, you talk about a wardrobe that you're just like, man, where did you get that from? One of the pieces, I would say, sort of his spiritual wardrobe is just faith. Like Rob, I talk with him, he's just a man of incredible faith, and yet Rob would also be probably the first to tell you that when you start to ask, hey, where did this kind of faith come from? It came through some stuff. Like Rob's been through some stuff. He's been through some tough times. He's been through some loss. He's been through some heartache. He's been through some challenges. But he wears a sense of faith that was birthed out of the faithfulness of a God and showed up time and time again in his life. Listen, there's some things in 2018 I know you want to get away from, and I know you just want to put that pain and put that hardship and put that struggle to the past, but make sure if you really want to break through in this new season, this next year, this new year, and for some of you, it starts with pulling out some lessons, pulling out some truth, pulling out some promises from last year's struggles. There are those times when God did show up and God pulled you through. You gotta pull those out. You gotta take those with you. It's what helps empower you and prepare you for the next season. Because again, the next season is going to come with its own fights. It's going to come with its own battles. It's going to come with its own challenges. And listen, if you hope to step into those promises, you've got to know how to wear your problems. You got to know how to wear the stuff from last year. You learn how to wear some joy, and wear some courage, and wear some faith that's only developed in those times of struggle and challenge and difficulty. So the first one there, again, we see this where they ask for, hey, I want you to leave. I don't want you to leave this year. I don't want you to leave Egypt empty-handed. I want you to go ask your neighbor for some clothes. And by the way, when I read that, like, I kind of get that. Like, that one has a practical purpose. But the other one, and we'll kind of start to wrap things up with this one, kind of takes me back because it seems totally impractical. Like, take some clothes, but notice that the next thing he tells them to take with them is jewelry. Well, like, all right, so clothes, I get that. You got a journey. It's going to get cold. It's going to get hot. You need to have clothes that cover you, that protect you from the elements in this journey to come. But what in the world? Why would you need jewelry to go in? I mean, this is not the Ritz-Carlton they're being called to. They're being called to the desert, right? Maybe like going camping and, like, you know, you're sprinting out of the house, you got everything packed, and all of a sudden my collie's like, hold on, I got to get my jewelry box. I got to look good in front of the campfire. Well, Exodus 35, we get a little bit of a glimpse and we start to kind of see why. Why the jewelry? And we see it in kind of this place in Exodus 35, and again, it looks like, because of the chapters, so many chapters away from Exodus 3, when we first see this promise and this kind of request by God to make sure that they take clothing, they take jewelry. It can almost seem like it's a long time away, but this is actually pretty much right after they've left Egypt. And here's what Moses' command to them. And Moses said to the whole Israelite community, this is what the Lord has commanded. From what you have, take an offering for the Lord. Everyone who is willing is to bring to the Lord an offering of gold, silver, and bronze. Which, man, kudos to Moses, by the way. I can only imagine, it had to take some courage to ask for an offering from a community of people who've been enslaved for 400 years, right? Like, I'm just doing what God told me to do. It's offering time, right? And so everyone who is willing, in verses 21 through 22, he says, everyone who is willing and whose heart moved them came and brought an offering to the Lord for their work on the tent of meeting, for all its service and for the sacred garments. And basically they're creating this temple of God, this place where they can encounter and meet with the very presence of God. And said all who are willing, men and women alike, came and they brought, get this, gold jewelry. Gold jewelry. See, what am I going to use to build this place of worship? What am I going to use to build this place of praise? The very same gold, the very same jewelry, the very same stuff that you got from that place of pain, that place of struggle, that place of hurt, that place of betrayal, that place where you got wounded. Because, see, something you got to get. See, this was not just a call to pull out preparation, but it was a call to pull out praise. And here's what you got to get about praise, is that real praise is always fashioned and formed and purified in the fires of affliction. It's always fashioned and formed and purified in the fires of affliction. I remember when I was growing up in church, we had oftentimes what was called testimony services. And I always loved them. Some guy would get up there and, now I would say typically the only reason it was a testimony service is because the pastor didn't have a message for that night. So it's like, it was an easy out, right? But oftentimes these guys would get up there and it almost seemed like they were complaining for like an hour. It's like, oh man, my life is terrible. This didn't work out. This didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. And this happened to me. And yet, inevitably, in every testimony story, whether it was 30 minutes long, 5 minutes long, there would always be a turning point. There would always be this point, but then God did something. But then God showed up. But then God started to turn things around. But then God, when this thing that I thought was going to destroy me and crush me, God used it and redeemed it and brought about some purpose in it and brought about some value in it that I didn't see before. And I share that with you because I think part of it, because we don't tend to do a lot of testimony services around, and maybe we need to do more of them, but I think there can be a disconnect sometimes because of that. I think there can be a disconnect between our singing and our suffering. There can be a disconnect between our singing and our suffering, and as a result, when it comes to our time of praise, and it comes to our time of worship, we're singing songs, but we don't even really fully understand the words that we're singing, because they're not connected to what we went through. In fact, Paul speaks, or actually Peter speaks to this, 1 Peter 1:6. It says, in all this, now to understand all this, you got to understand that all the verses before that, we're talking about some really bad situations and circumstances. And he said, in all this, you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in what? Praise. Praise. So what do you need that for? Why do you need jewelry? Why would you need to pull some of the stuff and pull some things out of the trials and out of the circumstances, out of the difficulties? Why would you need that? Because there's some gold there. There's some gold there. There's some praise there. This thing I went through, this pain, this sickness, this suffering, this doubt, this fear, this is the very thing that God is going to use to forge my praise to Him. In fact, I found this to be true, and maybe you have it as well, is that I found that the intensity of my praise is almost always proportionate to the intensity of my pain. It's almost always proportionate to the intensity of my pain. And it's why some of us can come in here and sing some songs and, look back on 2018, and because 2018 maybe wasn't all that bad for you, and it's like, oh, okay, that's great. It's a good song. Oh, it's my favorite song. I like this one, right? Go slow. I can get into this one, right? But let's be honest. How many know, those of you that actually went through something in 2018, when it comes to that time of praise, when it comes to that time of worship, it means something so much more to you than that. Well, like there's something more than just the gold of a little bit of a lesson that you might have picked up